Zohar in this week's parsha starts off saying, it's in the Masuk, if you want to see, it's in the Avkuf Tzadik Hey, in the Zohar. Lashon is, Karas Shnei Banim, Bekirbech, Al Tikri Banim Ela Bainim, Shehem Keneged Halev HaKaved. And then he says, Koidem Halich LeKaved, V'achakach Lelev. So two things. First of all, you have to know, and I'm sure you know already, that the parsha is not just telling us a story about a lady who was expecting and she had two babies inside her, or she didn't know at the time she had two babies inside her, but she had a lot of pain, whenever she walked down the streets. It's not telling us a story. As you know, the Torah doesn't tell stories. The Torah is telling us something. So the Zohar is telling us, Al Tikri Banim Ela Bainim. What's the Bainim that it's coming to teach us? And we have it also other places. You say it every, what does it say? Al Tikri Banayach Ela Bainayach. The same thing. It's always Bainim. What's the Bainim? So over here, Zohar is teaching us that over here we're talking about Leiv and Kaved. What's Leiv and Kaved? And so normally we would say that Leiv, what should come first? Leiv is basically the Mayach, and Kaved is the Nefesh. So what should come first? The Ruchni or the Gashmi? To me, obviously, that the Maychin should come before the Kaved. Zok the Zohar, no, Kaved comes first, which seems schwer. However, if you go into the gematriyos of Kaved is Chavav, which is Shem Havaya, and Leiv is a reference to Lamed Beis and Sivas HaChachma. What comes first? So in the Gilead Torah, when the Torah started off, so in the Bria, obviously the first thing that's begili to us is Yud Kei Vav Kei Shem Havaya. After the Shem Havaya, then came everything, then came Esesphiris, Chav Beis and so forth. That's the Pashtus. However, if you don't have the Isis, you don't have Shem Havaya either. So you really need the Isis first. So it's you could say that the Lamed Beis and Sivas should come before the Shem Havaya, because without Isis there's no Havaya. That's part one. Part two is there's also nachazach that the Lamed Beis Shemus is referring to the Lamed Beis Sivas. Over here we're referring to the Lamed Beis Shemus of Shem Elokim, and Bereshis Bara Elokim, that came first. So Mamela, you could say that came first. First the Shem Elokim, and afterwards by Shem Elokim, Eretz V'Shamayim. So the second part of it was the Havaya was introduced later. Okay. Obviously, it's Bainim and not Banim. So this whole parsha is teaching us what's going on. It's not talking to us about. There is a Milaim Yemots that Yidden and Goyim, one goes up, one goes down. Obviously, it's always talking about the internal in the person, the internal conflict between the Ruchni and the Gashmi and so forth. And you see, as you go through the parsha, you see. This is Milaim Yemots, and you see that every person is always, so to speak, fighting, just like there was fighting in the Betin of Rivka. You also see what happens when you can find a derech mamutza. A person has a derech mamutza that in his avodah, this amal is the kaved is working better, the type of achila, and amal the ruchni works better. So, but we need to find a happy medium. The happy medium is what we're going to call a yichud in a person's avodah, and his whole working towards Rebbeinu Shalom is a yichud. When you have a combination of the teva, which is to eat, and the ruchni is Hashem, as the havaya, and you have the elikim making a yichud. So in the person you have a yichud, and that's the ultimate. As she was going, and you see it continues on the same mahalach. What happened? She said, she was going and she was walking. She said, "In Kain, lama zeh anochi." What's prat lama zeh anochi? Anochi, Hashem Elokecha is referring to Aseres Hadibros. When she said lama zeh anochi, right? So she was thinking. We know that the first thing that has to come is the Aseres Hadibros. So how could it be that I'm walking past a base of Avodah Zarah and my child wants to jump out? That's Keneged Anochius. So she went, Vatelech Lidrash as Hashem, how could it be? If I'm supposed to be the aim of Klal Yisrael, and the child inside me is going to be from the Avos, Vikein Zayin, that there's no Anochi is over here, and that is Vatelech Lidrash as Hashem, how could it be that there's no Anochi? So therefore she went to be Derish as Hashem. And what's the answer of Vatelech Lidrash as Hashem? The answer is that you're going to have to find what was Yaakov. Yaakov was Tiferes. What's Tiferes? Is a mamutza, right? It's an emes Yaakov. You have a din and chesed, and they're mamutza. So over here we're also talking about mamutza. What's the mamutza over here? The mamutza is between the guf and the neshama, the ruchni and the gashmi. You have to find the mamutza. So Yaakov was perfect. That's why she was Vatelech Lidrash as Hashem. So she found middle ground for everything. There's also Nachazach over here. This, when it says Shnei Goyim Bevitnech, is also coming to show you that each person is that when a person's Tchunas HaNefesh, whatever he'll turn out to be, is that's Bevitnech. It's already there in the mother's stomach. Whatever the person's supposed to grow up to be, that's already there. Of course, you could improve it one way or the other. There's always times for tshuva and times for more mitzvahs and so forth. But a person's tchunas hanefesh, that he likes hot dogs and he likes corned beef, that's a tchunas hanefesh. That's already bebeten imoy that don't have so much control over. You also see at Nachazach that L'maisa what happened. Esav, who was totally in Gashmi, and he didn't care about the Ruchni. So what did he want? He wanted Mechali Kayim, Sabchaira. He wanted Adoshim in the worst way. He didn't care. What was that? That was strictly that he was not Kaivish his Ruchni. He was strictly Gashmi. He was strictly going for the Adoshim. Nothing else. Nothing else interested him. And he was ready to give up everything. Right? He knew that the Birkas Yitzchak would be a big deal. But at the moment, he was hungry, he was tired, and everything else, nothing else mattered to him. But Yaakov, obviously, who was his primus, he knew that the Koyach HaRuchni is stronger. So he made a good deal. And what was the deal? What did he gain from the deal? He gained from the deal, he got the Birkas Yaakov. What was now in the Birkas Yaakov itself? What does it start off? This is bothering me for a long time. Start off V'yitin L'cha Elikim. If I'm giving you something, why is it coming Midas Hadin? It should be V'yitin L'cha Hashem. Why is V'yitin L'cha Elikim? It's Midas Hadin. Number one. And secondly, you see a difference. What did Yaakov get? He got Tal Shamayim and Shmanei Ha'aretz. What did Esav get? Esav got only Shmanei Ha'aretz. Yeah, Shmanei Ha'aretz Yema Shavech, right? So he didn't get Tal Shemayim. But second, right? So, just a second. Okay, so first of all, you have to understand what is Tal Shemayim. So, Tal Shemayim is considered the chiyus. In the Datz Cham, Tal Shemayim is chiyus. In other words, Yevadoimim, Tzemeach, Chaim, Medaber, without the Tal Shemayim, there's no chiyus. If you want to refer to what we're learning now, which is Shar Arich, Perek Hey, he talks about the Yud Gimel Nimin, Yud Gimel Tikunei Dikna. We're talking about 3 Havayas over here, right? Each one has Yud Gimel in it. So what is Yud Gimel? And 3 Havayas, the 3 separate Havayas. I'm not going into the whole thing, you're all holding there right now. And so the 3 times 13 is 39, which is, over here we're talking about in Atik Yaimin, and we're talking about Kolgalta and Avira and Machin Stiman, right? So it's all Tal Hashamayim, right? It's all up in the El Yainim. And that's the 39, that's the Tal. So obviously that's the Chiz, because that's the Sherish HaKoil, because it's in the highest P'chinas. Also you see, how does it relate to us down here? Because you see by Shabbos Mincha, you say, Ata Echad, Shimcha Echad, Mika Amcha Yisrael, Goy Echad, every Echad is 13. So the 3 times 13 is also Keneged Tal, which V'negei Shabbos is the Lamed Tes Malachos. So you see that the Tal HaShamayim is the Sheresh HaKoil, and Shmanei Ha'aretz, without Tal HaShamayim nothing exists. Think of it as a Yichud Abba Ve'ima, that if there's no Yichud at that high Madrega, the world stops existing. You think of Tal in the same vein. When's the last time somebody told you, I see it's doing, the dew is coming down? You don't see it. It's like more or less behelim. You wake up in the morning, if it's cold, there's ice on your car. That's how you know it's there. Or you walk in the summer in the grass, your feet get wet. But b'chlal, you don't know it's there. Not even margish that it's there. That's the word of Tal is a chiyas that you don't feel coming in your face. The kedusha, the hashpas of the Rebbeinu Shalom giving chiyas to the olam, it's just there, comes almost on its own. So, but Masha'enkin Shmanei Ha'aretz. Shmanei Ha'aretz is something that you have to work to get. And so Shmanei Ha'aretz is obviously referring to the Kula Gashmi. Right? So it's just showing you throughout the beginning of the Parsha, towards the end of the Parsha, how there's a sichsuch between the Ruchni and the Gashmi. And Yaakov obviously has got the Ruchni. We take it low, Madrega says Koil Kol Yaakov. As we know, the Shiva Koilos, which we've spoken about it many times, that the Shiva Koilos is also strictly Ruchni. We're not talking, obviously it means that the Klal Yisrael sits on his Torah, Yadayim Yadei Yisov. You take it on this level also, that the Koil is Ben Hashemayim, and the Yadayim Yadei Yisov is the physical work that a person does. And basically, it's just coming together, everything, in one shot, to show you beginning to end, Ruchni and Gashmi.